Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to our Author of the Month case study featuring author Kathleen Harper. How are you, Kathleen?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for being with us.
Happy to be here.
Every month we feature a different one of our authors, and we like to kind of dig into their story of becoming a best-selling author. Kathleen is an author of 2 books, which you will hear about today, and she is also a mom. So I think one of the things we'll also talk about today, Kathleen, is just balancing having a business, having a family, having priorities that are all in line. And what's nice about that is it really fits in with the work that you do as a coach.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. Yeah.
So just to kind of get things started, let's just introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about you, what you do, and we'll talk about your journey into becoming a best-selling author.
Great. Well, I'm Kathleen Ann Harper. I am the author of 2 books, The Well-Crafted Mom and Signs of a Happy Baby. The second book I wrote with my husband, Bill White. And what I do is I work with moms to help them manage the many transitions and challenges of motherhood so that they have the time and the energy to focus on what matters most to them.
Fantastic. All right. So you were a mom and a coach before you wrote this book. Tell me where you were when you came up with the idea to write a book. Is it something you thought about before?
Oh, I'd been thinking about writing a book forever, since I was little, and writing poetry and putting together little books for my parents. But I had started, I had come up with ideas and I had come up with, started writing chapters, but it had never, ever amounted to anything. And I always told myself that I didn't have the time, or I would berate myself that I didn't have the focus. I was a life coach, and what really got me excited about writing the book was a conversation with you, Angela. You had a free call, a consultation call, and I had called you because I had been contacted by a friend about co-writing a book with him, and I had called you to get some advice about that. And
I remember that now.
Yeah, it was such an illuminating call, because I realized that I really wanted to write a book, and I realized that I could do it on my own. And that it was important that I write the book that I needed to share with the world, and not just lend my writing skills to someone else's vision. And so that call was pivotal. That changed it for me. And I signed up right then and there, and I was writing my book the program started, I think, 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, right after that.
So let's talk about this, because you actually, not everybody that we work with sort of fancies themselves a writer. Some people do, but some people are really trying to get their message across, and writing is the byproduct. But for you, was the desire to write a book about artistic expression, or was it more about sharing your message? Where did your own passion for writing come into the equation?
Well, I don't think it was one or the other. For me, it's both. I've always considered myself to be a writer, and I think it's the best way that I express myself. And I also had this vision of how I could take what I was doing on a very small scale and share it with a much wider audience. I do groups for moms where we combine coaching with crafts. So the crafts tie into the new life coaching tool that I'm getting across to the moms in my group. And so the book, when I suggested this idea to you in my consultation call with you, you were like, oh my God, I love that. That's the book. And so it really was an extension of what I was doing with moms already, and combining that with my love of writing.
It's funny, because in a way, what I love about the idea of using crafts with moms is it's like a Trojan horse. It's a way to sneak in. They think they're making a bird feeder, and really they're feeding their own soul in a way they maybe didn't expect. And
Yeah.
so I think the book was sort of almost a craft for you, in that there was the fun of making something, but also you transforming in the process.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it was a big transformation. It was a transformation of really becoming who I always knew I wanted to be.
Mm.
It takes a lot to be able to write a book. I mean, it's not just coming up with the ideas and sitting down to write. It's really about how do you put who you are onto paper. And how can you translate what it is that you want to give to your readers in a way that they can grab onto and use to change their lives.
So for you, before you started writing, what were some of the things you were afraid of? You mentioned time, and I want to
Yeah.
talk about your family and your other obligations.
Yeah, I mean, I was really worried about how much time the book would take out of my, taking care of my family and running my business. And to be perfectly honest, it did. It took a lot of time to be able to write the book that I wanted to write. And luckily my kids are a little older, so they got it. They got that they needed to help, and my husband is just amazing. He's very supportive and could take on a lot of stuff. But it was really more about like, where do I direct my focus? Like, where and how do I divide that so that I'm giving my kids what I want to give to them, and how do I give my business what I want to give to them? And it was just a matter of being really, really mindful about what I was adding into my life and saying no to a lot of things that didn't. I mean, in my family, we talk about, does it feed your soul or does it feed your family? And if it doesn't fit into whatever it is, the class, the webinar, the project, whatever it is, if it doesn't fit into one of those two categories, then it's something that we really need to say no to. And so that was my mantra. Does it feed my soul or feed my family? And most of the things got said no to during that time. And it was a great exercise. It's one that I teach my clients how to.
So you're worried about time, maybe worried a little bit about what to say yes and no to. What about thoughts that you might have had about, is this going to be good enough?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, that's a big one. Wondering, like, because my book is very personal, and I write a lot about my experiences as a mom, and I really had to be mindful about turning that voice off, that inner critic, and to be able to say, like, just put it down on paper and trust that you and Grace would let me know whether I was crossing a line, whether I was oversharing, whether it was not good enough, whether I needed to edit or change or add more. And being able to trust my resources with that, trust you, trust my editor, really made a big difference in being able to quiet that voice, because I was getting such great feedback from the two of you that I could trust you and not trust that inner voice that was saying, not good enough, not good enough.
Were you worried about that beforehand, or did you think once you signed up that voice would go away and then you were about to
Yeah, I thought once I got accepted into your program that the voice would automatically go.
Sorry.
Bad voice. And it doesn't, but it did. I think I was able to use my resources in a way that I knew I didn't have to listen to it, and I could write, I could focus, and I could write and put out what I needed to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we tell ourselves, once I feel confident about whatever, my writing, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is that it's writing that gives you the confidence, right? It's the doing that gets you to that next step.
Right. So I do think people sign up and they get accepted. It's obviously very competitive. A lot of people want to write with us. They get accepted and they're like, now I've arrived. Like, now I'm at Harvard. Now I've arrived and everything's going to be easy. And then when it isn't, easy in that way, that's when we can get into the real work. That's when we can get into like, okay, what is coming up? And now we can support you to work through it. Because if you don't work through it now, there's not some magical future where that's been worked through. Like the actual writing the book is where you get to kind of, I think, evolve as a person. And what I say is you become the person who wrote the book.
Right. And, I think the group process that you have is really beneficial for that because, writing is isolating. You're sitting there, you and your computer doing whatever it is you're supposed to be, whatever chapter you're supposed to write that day. But to have the weekly group where you heard other people and listened to what they were challenged by and listening to the support that you gave them was amazing because it helped me to realize that I wasn't alone. It gave me the resources to be able to work through what those challenges were in a way that, I wasn't just sitting in a room all by myself.
Are you someone who generally likes groups? Do you think of yourself as my mom always says, I'm not a joiner. Do you think of yourself as like a joiner and comfortable sharing in groups?
No, I'm not usually, unless I'm the one in charge, right? I have my mommy groups that I do every month, and I'm a great joiner when it's my own group.
Right, and me too.
But what I've realized, particularly, starting with when I went through my coaching program, is that because I am very much of an introvert, but when I am a part of a group and I utilize the information and the people and the process that are there for me, I'm better, right? I grow, and whatever I'm working on grows as well. So it's a matter of pushing myself, and pushing myself is always, it's the doing, and the doing is what gets you to that next step. It's not the thinking about it. It's not the processes that go on in your head. It's the actual doing. And so when I push myself to do and join and come together with like-minded people, that's when I grow. That's when I learn.
So let's talk about the actual doing of the book. What was writing the book? So I think you actually, do you remember how long you spent on your book? I think it was like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I extended the program. Which isn't something that you do.
Very rare.
Very rarely. I had started off writing a book, and then it shifted for me. There was more that I wanted to add to it. There was, adding the crafts in at the end of each chapter took more, and then also the research took quite a while, much more time than I thought it was going to be. And so it was really wonderful that I had that support to be able to extend it because I wanted it to be the book that I really, really wanted to write. And so, you were really, you tested me. Like, are you doing this because you're afraid to publish your book? Are you doing this because, you are just spinning? And so it was helpful to talk to you and to my editor, Grace, and
but this is what I want to say. Like, we're talking, like, you spent a long time on your book, like 5 whole months. And I think it might have been 4. It was 4 or 5 months. And it's like many people will spend 4 or 5 years and maybe not even finish the book. So for us, like, most of our authors will finish their book in 90 days or less. And so your book was one of our, like, wow, this one took a long time, like 4.5 months. So that's still really fast. And particularly I would call you a perfectionist. Would you say that you have?
I am a recovering perfectionist.
Okay, I'll take that. You are somebody who, like, you have a way that you wanted your book. You had a very clear vision for your book.
I did.
And to make that happen in 4 or 5 months is, for most people, just not even possible. Like, I still think, even though that was a little bit longer than our normal book, I still think it's like a miracle compared to what we see. So why do you think you were able to finish so quickly? And it's a sizable book. I mean, I think it's over 300 pages.
Um,
250. Hold on, let me grab it.
it's, I think 270. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a meaty little.
Yeah.
It's a meaty little book, this one.
I mean, the end notes alone take up quite a number of pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
pretty.
it, yeah.
So why do you think you were able, this is Kathleen's book, by the way. We'll put up the link to Amazon, but it's called The Well-Crafted Mom.
Yeah.
Kathleen and Ann Harper. So make sure you get a copy of that, and you'll see a link here. Why do you think you were able to get it done? What do you think made this different than other projects that don't finish?
It's the process. Like, and also the process that you have set in place, the program that you have is very well thought out. And it really resonated with me because I knew that there were steps, and I'd created what you call the inline, which is, it was how my book is going to look. It's another word for outline, but it's all in line with what I wanted to say. And then I had set deadlines for myself on which chapters were due. I had a fantastic editor. I had the weekly phone calls, so I was staying on track. So the process was really, really helpful to me because I knew like what I was supposed to be doing when. And I think the other big thing is that you don't create any room for not finishing.
Mm-hmm.
There is no room for that. And you believed in me, right? And even when I didn't believe in me, you did. And that got me through a lot of me sitting there going, oh my God, how am I going to get this chapter done? Like when I had writer's block, like I mean, everything I was chugging along. And then I ran out of track. I'm like, oh my God, like, where do I go? Like, how am I supposed to get to the next chapter when I couldn't finish? I was so stuck. And so I talked to my editor. She gave me some ideas, and I talked to you. I got on the call with you, and you gave me some great resources. And the chapter, funnily enough, that I was working on was fun, about having fun. And I realized I wasn't having any. I mean, you were on the call. You're like, okay, so how much fun are you having? I'm like, none.
Low on the fun.
No on the fun. And so I knew what I needed to do was not write, right? I had to take a break from writing and do something else and allow my brain to build the tracks, so to speak, so that I could continue. And so I started crafting, got outside with my kids. We went to the beach, we went on hikes, and it was like magic. Right?
Yeah. This is the thing I say to people is there's a difference between, and it's so subtle, there's a difference between procrastinating and then doing something like going shopping, going to the beach with your kids, organizing your sock drawer in service to your reader. Creating space in your brain to be ready to write is totally different than trying hard not to feel feelings of inadequacy about writing. And really, procrastination is all about like, I want to put my head in the sand. I don't want to think about it. But when you're like, what if it was perfectly fine that I wasn't writing right now? What if I just called going to the beach with my kids, working on my book?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I needed to have fun in order to be able to write about fun.
You certainly can't write a chapter on fun. And the next thing you do to have fun is,
yeah, it's so true. It is so true.
Yeah. And it often comes up. I mean, I think I even found this in school, like the topics that we pick to write about are the ones in some way we need parts of for ourselves very often.
Yeah.
But it's often the chapters. I get so excited when people have writer's block because the chapter they have writer's block in is usually the one where there's a message for them that in order to do the work that they want to do in the world, that's their next growth opportunity.
Right. Yeah. And that makes total sense that I got stuck there. Mm-hmm. For me, like I get busy and fun would be the first thing to go. And then then work feels like work. And the reason you don't have a corporate job is so that work, I mean, most of the time work doesn't feel like work. I love what I do.
Right.
So it was a really great lesson for me.
So I want to go back to kind of the theme of you identifying with introverts, with the other introverts who are watching. A lot of writers are introverts,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't really get super excited necessarily about going to I don't know, a writer's group and having their work critiqued. I don't know if you identify as sensitive in addition to being an introvert, but how did you feel about submitting those chapters? We often refer to them lovingly by Anne Lamont's term of a shitty first draft. But a lot of what you have to turn in, it's not done. Like you're going to get feedback on something incomplete, not polished. How'd you coach yourself into doing that?
Well, I think, I mean, I was super nervous in the beginning because I didn't know my editor. I didn't know Grace at all. And, you know, I wasn't sure if what I was writing was good enough, right? But Grace, he has such a beautiful person in that woman. She is so amazing. Her feedback was so good and so on point that I was able to really rely on her so much to be able to know that I was what I was doing was on the right track, and it was good feedback. It wasn't critical at all. It was all in service of making the book better. And so that was a process that came, I think, because Grace was so amazing. I mean, it came fairly naturally.
As people get closer and closer to publishing their book, very often what happens is they will, what we talk about on our team is sabotaging. You don't know, not you, but the author doesn't know what that they're doing, but they'll pick a fight with their editor, or they'll hate their book cover, or they'll not be able to settle on a title. And these things will feel very real. Like it'll feel like, but I really can't pick a title, or but I really hate all these book covers, or but my editor really didn't call me back when she said she'd call me back. Like they feel very real. But so much of it is the way that we see authors manifest being afraid to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So as you got closer to your book coming out, did you have fears about being seen, this sort of tug of war between I can't wait for everyone to read my book and I don't want anyone to read my book?
Yeah.
Did you have that, and how did you work through that? What advice do you have about that?
No, I mean, you know, I said before how my book is so personal, and it really is. I mean, it talks about some of the most challenging parts of motherhood for me. And so there was that big fear about putting it out into the world, about having people who I know read it. And that was a big roadblock that created a lot of fear for me because I don't share my vulnerability well. I like to be the one who has it all together, you know, and I typically am the one who comes across as having it all together. And in the book, my stories are all about the times when I didn't. And I needed to be coached through that. By my coach, by my husband, by you, by Grace, to be able to take a breath and realize that my stories, I mean, after I published the book, so many moms came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you were writing about me." Like I felt like I picked up this book and you were writing about me. And like that's what makes it worth it for me. That's what makes it worth putting myself out there and sharing the things that really show that, you know, I don't have it all together, right? But to be able to create a path for somebody who's struggling and feels alone, for a mom who feels like she's the only one who doesn't have it all together, you know, that to me is making a difference.
Yeah. And do you think that is what was motivating to you, is being able to make a difference, being able to, like, that even though maybe you didn't want those stories out there, there was kind of no way to help people without being willing to go first?
Yeah, it's very true, because I found that in coaching moms, they'd come to me with so much shame, in my one-on-one coaching about how, I really don't like this all the time. And I'm like, well, you're not supposed to. And they're like, really? Because everyone else seems like they do.
On Facebook, everyone loves being
everybody looks so happy, right? Uh, and so that was the main reason why I wrote the book, is because I came across so many moms who were like, everyone else has it together, and I feel like I missed Motherhood 101. And I'm like, yeah, what you're seeing is not real, right? It's everybody's social self that they're putting out there. But most moms feel the way, at least most moms I talk to, feel the way that people, that moms do, that they feel like they miss something. That it's
what do you think? And this comes up not just books about motherhood, but in books where our authors will share about their personal lives. This has come up before. What do you think about your kids reading this book? Have they read it? Was there anything you talked to them about before it came out?
Well, my kids haven't read it, but I was in the car with my older son, who was probably about 12 at the time, and the book hadn't been published. And he said, so am I in the book? And I said, yeah, you're in the book quite a bit. And he said, oh. And he said, do you say my name? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, oh, well, that's good, because we have different last names. So, and he felt reassured by that. But it was interesting, because I'd always had the sense of, like, my children aren't identified by name at all throughout the books, either one, the first one or the second one. And that was really important to me, because it just felt like they're my stories, but they're also his stories, but both of my son's stories. So I hope that they read it sometime. I hope that, their spouses read it, when they end up hopefully having children in the future. But that to me was a very interesting comment, from
that is very interesting. So you put the book out. Tell me about what it was like to, after creating poetry books as a kid, after wanting to be an author for a long time, what was it like how long did your book publish? Like 18 months ago?
It's been published in September of last year. The first book did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little less than a year and a half ago. So what was it like when you first became an author? How did that feel, and what was that like for you?
Personally, it was amazing. It was like, I couldn't get over this elation of, like, I wrote a book, like, and then when I got the paperback, right? Because the ebook is there and you think, oh, it's an ebook, right? And then you get the paperback and you're holding it in your hands. And that was about a year ago. It was like, oh my God, this is real. Like, this, I did it. Like, I did something that so many people want to do and don't. And here I am with my book. So that part was really amazing. And then what happens is, it's like having the key to whatever door you want open. People go, oh, you're an author? Oh, you're an author? It's amazing, for speaking engagements, for podcasts, and whatever it is that where I want to spread my message. People are like, oh, you have a book? And
right. It is, like, in many ways, I think it's not fair, because I think there are probably people who are watching this, who have more certifications, are more qualified, have more to say, have a more important message. And without a book, getting that message heard is 10 times harder.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
What are some of the favorite things that have happened to you as an author? Maybe people that you've met because of your book, opportunities you've had. What is, obviously there's the sense of pride, but.
Yeah, there is a sense of pride, and also pride from my family, like my kids being proud of me and my parents being proud of me. And of course, Bill being proud of me.
Or jealous. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, not jealous anymore. But then also, I think like one of my friends works for a big technology company, a big one. And he went in to talk to one of the administrative assistants, and on her computer, up on her screen, was the Amazon page for my book. And he's like, I know that person. And she's like, oh my God, you do? And when he was telling this story to me, it was like there are people out there who know my book who I don't know. It reminded me of the story like when Amazon started, right? They had a bell that rung every time they made a sale. And, it was always somebody's brother or mom.
Right.
Who was buying something. But then, it was the bell kept ringing more and more and more. It was people they didn't know, right? And then they had to turn the bell off altogether. Because
can you imagine now what that bell would sound like?
So it's it felt like that. Like, oh, there are people who there's so many people I don't know who I've touched in some way. And that's really amazing to me. That just feels like I'm making a difference.
So I alluded to this earlier. I can't hold it up yet, but I know I'll be able to soon. Yeah. You actually didn't just write one book in the last year and a half or so. You've written two. So finished the first book, had so much fun that your husband was like, wait a minute, hold on, stop the press. Yeah. So tell us about your second book.
My second book I wrote in collaboration with my husband, William Paul White. He is a baby sign language instructor. He has a company that brings baby sign language classes to parents throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. And he has always wanted to write a book. So when the opportunity came to do a second book with you, we decided to co-write our book, Signs of a Happy Baby. And it is a book on how to sign with your baby. It has more than 100 photographs. By the way,
she's saying sign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because we've switched topics from crafting now to sign language.
Now we're doing baby sign language. And so there's more than 100 photographs illustrated of different signs that people can share teach their baby how to do. And
but it's much more than a dictionary. When you say there's 100 pictures, it's not just like, A is for apple.
No, it's a lot more than that. We talk about how to sign with your baby. We talk about why it's important to sign with your baby and have research studies that have been done to back that up. And also, there's my little part in it that is about how sign language really helps you to become the parent that you want to be, encouraging the communication with your child, encouraging the communication within other members of the family, really helping you figure out like what's important and how you're going to be as a family. So it was a wonderful project. It was hard working with my spouse, but it was.
I want to talk about co-authoring a little bit.
Yeah.
When you first came to me, there was a co-authoring project.
Right.
And I think to some extent talked you out of it. I generally talk people out of co-authoring.
Yeah, it was more you were very clear on what is the purpose on writing a book, right? And it's really a lot about the back end product, right? It's a lot about like having something that you can use to get your message across. And that book wouldn't have done it. It would have done it for my co-author, but it wouldn't have done it for me. And this book was wonderful because it was a collaboration that benefited both my husband and me.
That's what I want to talk about, because I think it's you talked about your part of the book, but you guys actually tied in sort of like in the Well-Crafted Mom, how you tie in crafting and coaching. Mm-hmm. You tied in parenting with the with actual signing. So signing is this very, outward sign. It's like this very outward manifestation of a skill, just
Yeah.
like our birdhouse that I talked about earlier.
Right.
But there's some internal shifts that happen as well when you decide to sign with your baby, after you do, when you make that commitment. So you were actually able to tie in back end ways to work with both of you for years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it was really great that we could do that, and so excited.
So that's a good reason why to do a co-author. Now let's talk about this, and let's just be totally honest, because they're both great books. Which was easier to write?
The second book was much easier to write.
How come?
Well, I think because a lot of the baby sign language information was already a part of our lives, right? I had access to the data and the research. I had access to my expert in baby sign language living under my same roof.
You mentioned, right, the research that you did with the first book.
Yeah.
All this research, you didn't have to go to the library for this one.
Yeah. I mean, so that part, just the physical writing, the actual getting of the information for the book was so much easier. But I went in knowing what to expect a lot more in terms of managing my family. I had prepared like all of these frozen meals in Ziploc bags that I could just dump into the slow cooker ahead of time. So I had a freezer full of meals and a schedule of what we were gonna eat on each day. Because that was a big challenge with the first book, was just, oh my God, I have to feed my family. It's 6:00 and I'm up here at my computer and I really want to finish this chapter, but oh my God, I need to feed my family. So just being able to manage the logistics of it ahead of time, because I knew what to expect. And then going in, getting the same editor, big plus.
And then build that relationship.
Yeah, because I already knew, and it was even better because you had changed it a little bit. So I had more interaction with her the second time around, which was awesome. And I mean, I knew I knew the process. I mean, I knew how to do my inline. I knew how to figure out who my ideal reader was. And so much easier the second time. And now I'm thinking about book 3. So
what do you have in mind for book 3? What are you playing around with?
Well, another book for moms. And what I see is how much motherhood redefines who you are. And it's not just who you are psychologically. I mean, there's that saying that once you have a child, it's the commitment to wearing your heart on the outside of your body for the rest of your life, right? It's not just that, but it's also our relationship with our bodies changes so significantly. No matter, your body's different, and not just necessarily a bad way. I mean, you learn oh my God, I am like a goddess, right? Had a baby and I had the baby inside of me. And then,
that still blows me away. There was a person in my person.
Right. Yeah. I tell that, to my kids, I made you
Right.
So the book is a combination of how to redefine, how motherhood redefines you. And, so I'm just playing around with the idea right now and starting to do a little bit of research and
how will you know when you're ready? What do you think being a 2-time best-selling author has taught you about when to write a book, when to pull the trigger? Because so many people have tons of book ideas.
I think it is a lot like motherhood. I don't think you are ever really ready. I think you just do it. You just decide that, okay, this is when I'm going to do it, and you do it. Because if you wait to feel ready to be a parent, I was always amazed, they're letting me take this kid home from the hospital. Seriously, aren't they going to send somebody along to make sure we're okay? And the same thing is true with the book. You are never, ever going to feel ready. You're always going to say, I don't have enough time. You're always going to say, I've got to finish this first, or I need to be more confident, or I need to talk to more people before I have enough information. It's just not going to happen.
Don't you love that you know that now?
Yeah. So for me, it's a matter of just deciding, what seems like a good month to start. And then,
do you think, because the second book, I think you actually did get done in 3 months.
I did.
Right?
Yeah, no extension.
So you've written a book in 3 months. You've written a book in 4.5 months. if you could give yourself any length of time in the world, what do you think for you is the perfect amount of time to write a book?
That 90-day process, I think, that you have is perfect. I think it's the right amount of time to have, the time to write the book. I like having the research done ahead of time, like I did with the second book. But to write the book, do you think
it would be easier to write a book in 3 years or 3 months?
Yes, 3. How can you keep that? Because I know how much I've changed from writing my first book in 2015. Like I think if I was writing a book over the course of 3 years, I'd have to go back and rewrite it, right? It wouldn't, I don't think I'd be able to keep that thread going.
Right.
So much easier to write it in 3 months and just commit to getting it out and getting it to the people who really need it, really need to hear what your book has to say. Yeah.
When you hear from readers of both books, of either book, how does that address the feelings of maybe I could have done more, maybe it could have had one more round of editing, maybe we could have gotten a slightly better cover, like all those feelings when you get feedback, how does that change those thoughts?
I have never had somebody say, like, oh, I wish you had a chapter on this, right? Somebody commented on the Amazon page for the baby sign language book saying, I wish it had pictures. And I'm like, you didn't get far enough through it, right? I think, I haven't felt that. I haven't felt like if only I had done this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
I'm really proud of the book.
I think that's what we think. Like, as you're writing it, you're like, oh, people are going to critique all the things that could have been in the book.
Yeah.
But it's not that everyone necessarily likes every book. It's just, I think there's so much more power in getting it out there, even if there is a missing chapter.
Right. I totally agree. I think, we can spin around and around. And I know I did for years, around and around in my head about making up stories about why I had to wait or why I couldn't write a book this year. But the thing is that you got to get it out there. If the book is inside of you, then somebody needs to read it. Somebody needs your message. And if it lives inside your head, then you're missing out on helping the people that I know the book inside of me is not helping the people that I'm meant here to serve. It needs to be in print, needs to be in an ebook. It needs to be where people can access and be changed by it. Yeah.
So beyond the book, obviously people find you through your book, but beyond the book, what's going on? How do people work with you? How can they find you, and what's coming up next for you?
Well, people can find me on thewellcraftedmom.com and also happybabysigns.com, which is the baby sign language website. There is a free class that's available for people who want to be introduced to baby sign language, and it's happybabysignsclass.com. Will get you to the free page where you can sign up and take a class.
And Bill actually teaches that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He teaches.
So if you want to meet Kathleen's husband, and he's an amazing teacher. I've gotten him out.
And he's very funny, and it's a way to learn and start practicing, so you can share it not only with the little ones in your life. Maybe you don't have any little ones, but you could share it with other people. Like Bill and I are constantly signing to each other, when we're out. Just because it's...
If you want to talk about the waitress.
Yeah, or, we have little things that we want to communicate, or you have to go to the bathroom and you're across the room. You can just, sign potty and...
Nice.
Yeah, so thewellcraftedmom.com, happybabysigns.com, and then for the free class, it's Happy Baby Signs Class.
Happy Baby Signs Class. And what about you as a coach? Are you coaching right now? Mm-hmm. Who do you work with, and why do they come to you?
Well, I am coaching right now. I work with moms one-on-one, either face-to-face or via video chat or call. And I also run 2 in-person groups per month where we focus on a life crafting life coaching tool as well as a craft. So this month we're talking about how to give so you don't burn out, which is very applicable for the
perfect for the
holidays. And so we'll be making little gifts for people, or the people, moms who come can also keep it for themselves if they're feeling depleted. And I work with moms. I love working with moms to help them through like all of the challenges that come with being a parent. Whether it's how do you manage a tantruming 3-year-old without losing sight of who you are, how to stay in your own business when you're a mom, how to transition back into the workforce. Have a couple of moms who've just gotten jobs, which is really exciting. So it's all about supporting moms in the ways that they need to be the parent that they've always wanted to be.
Love it. Well, there are definitely more books where that came from. There's no shortage of books needed for moms and parents. If you are thinking about writing a book and maybe you're a mom, maybe you're an introvert, maybe there's some part of Kathleen's story that resonated with you and made you think, yeah, maybe now is the time for me to write a book. There is a link on the screen to go to the authorincubator.com/apply, and you can learn more about our process there. You apply to write with us, and then you'll see a short video introducing you to what it is like to work with the Author Incubator. So any advice for people who are thinking about writing their books?
Do it. Sign up. Make 2017 the year that you do it.
Nice. I love it.
Don't procrastinate any longer. Just do it.
So Kathleen Ann Harper, I'm going to hold this up again. Kathleen Ann Harper, she is the author of The Well-Crafted Mom and Happy Baby, and co-author of Happy Baby Signs. You can find them both on Amazon and in bookstores soon. So keep an eye out at your local Barnes & Noble and pick up a copy of Kathleen and Bill's book, Happy Baby Signs, in bookstores. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you learned something about yourself and what the process of becoming an author is like. And I hope you also enjoyed getting to know Kathleen, our featured author of the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.